Okay, I'm only going to make this one more time because I didn't get to fully talk about how I want to talk about it, and I can put this on a YouTube video and it'll be a lot better on there. And barely anyone will see it. Okay. I made a point on Instagram that was from a different video that had came out where someone was saying, like, they they don't understand why people who are Bakudeku shippers are going so crazy about the whole Ochako becoming a canon ship with Izuku. Now, I personally, yes, I am a Bakudeku shipper, I will admit, but I don't think the fact that Bakudeku becoming canon is the problem. I think it's the fact that Ochako and Izuku becoming canon in general is a problem. Now, back in the beginning, when Ochako was showing very clear signs of having a crush on Izuku, the creator was asked whether she was going to be the final ship or not. Now, he was very vague, and he had said something along the lines of, although Ochako has feelings for Izuku, obviously a crush, that does not mean that she will be the final love interest. Now, this caused a lot of people to believe that, okay, well, she can't be the option now. Maybe it's like a misleading thing, you know, where, like, the character had a crush on this character, but then they kind of ended up with a different character. If you want to go with, like, Naruto, like, you know, Sasuke and Sakura, but it ended up being Hinata, you know, like, a situation like that. So a lot of people were led to think, like, maybe along those lines, or just something similar as in general. Now, it was very obvious that Izuku in the beginning was very blushy towards Ochako, but Izuku brushes it off, saying it was because he was shy over the fact that it was a girl. And it kind of gets proven when he's interacting with more females, the more shy and blushy he becomes. He also becomes very shy when it comes to, like, a lot of attention in general. It's just a common theme with Izuku. Attention and other stuff like that he's not used to, and he just gets very blushy and other stuff towards that, and it's a whole different scenario. So in the earlier seasons, Season 1 and Season 2, he acts significantly like that. You can kind of see little droplets of it when they're mentioning about, like, you know, public TV and stuff like that later in the future. But for the most part, after about Season 2, around Season 3, is when he kind of loses all of that shyness, especially for his classmates. This is when Ochako kind of enters this mode of, like, the true friend mode, where he sees every single person as just a friend. And this is kind of where the problem starts to begin. The fact that Izuku and Ochako are, like, the ones that end up in a relationship don't make a lot of sense, because at this point Izuku has an emotional like connection with almost everyone except for Ochako in a weird way. He gets into emotional contact with Todoroki, with his family, and, like, the whole, like, you know, crying situation. Like, Todoroki, him, and Ida having a whole emotional thing where with, like, you know, with Stain, they also have that emotional talk about, like, crying, and, like, all of those scenes together. That is Izuku, Ida, and Todoroki. That's, like, a whole thing between the two of them. Todoroki and Izuku later on have way more emotional stuff, so you can, like, say stuff between those two. Ida and Izuku have that whole, like, thing towards, like, the end as well, if you want to point that out. Ayama is, like after a while starts to become more of an important character to Izuku in general as well. Like, all these characters are becoming very important to Izuku, and yet maybe you saying, oh wait, but Izuku's straight, obviously it can't, because, you know, Izuku this, Izuku that. Alright, if you want to go in that situation, we have Froppy, who has, like, an emotional talk with Izuku. They have, you know, like, certain scenes together. They're both kind of, like, in like a little fun thing together. You have that character. Or, hell, Melissa from the first movie. The blonde character from the first movie that was like, oh, Ochako was jealous about. Yeah. She is still an important character. Don't get me wrong, we don't see her face anymore, we don't hear from her anymore, but her technology is persistent. We can still see Izuku trying to use her technology, saying that it was, like, it's a special technology that he needs to have on him. Yeah, it gets modified and stuff, but hey, that is still very important, like, a very important detail. That means Melissa is still, like, an important character to him. Like, all of this can be pulled that Izuku has an emotional connection with this person, also with Froppy. Hell, if you want to point out the whole, like, blushing factor, like, Hatsume, he still has that blushing scene with Hatsume and stuff like that, and he has a respect scene with her as well, where he learns to like, show respect to her and stuff like that. There are all these scenes with multiple different characters where he shows ultimate respect best. Now you can even pull one for Shinso if you wanted. There's all these scenes where Izuku is showing just like an important scene with each and every character. He does this with pretty much every single person, including Ochako, sure. But Ochako has like a break period before she even like interacts with Izuku. And they say that's because that she has a crush and she's trying to figure herself out. Eventually she does figure herself out and figures out that she wants to put her life forward first before anything else, so that way she doesn't ruin friendships and stuff. I'm pretty sure. I don't really remember too much, don't at me. Anyway, so she focuses more on like things around her. She has that whole toga scene, which is another reason why I feel some people were upset, because, you know, there was a lot of toga and Ochako art that was being produced, and they had a whole emotional thing together as well. So that was also kind of misleading. Like, were they gonna become something? I mean, have you seen those arts? But it doesn't really matter. Just besides like the art being promotion and stuff and everything else, Ochako seemed like she was on her own wavelength anyway. Like she kind of had moved past from this like crush that she had. Of course, she still obviously cares for Izuku. That big speech that she gave Izuku is still very important to like the storyline, and I feel like that speech, although is really important and good and does show more importance of her as a character, it feels like it's also something that's forcing these characters to rush. Now, I understand completely. I had written a fanfic for the series, and I had felt the pressure to rush two characters together when I wanted to keep them separate for a bit longer, so it made more sense for the story-wise. I understand where this guy is coming from. I understand where like other people are coming from when it comes to like shipping in general and getting this ship to be canon as quickly as possible. But it feels like it's just a shove-off. It feels like it's just being thrown out there. It doesn't feel like this is really romantic for Izuku. Izuku does not show many signs of romantic feeling for anyone. After season 2-ish to 3-ish, he doesn't show any romantic things about Ochako. Hell, if anything, he's seeing her like a family. Because at this point, Class 1A, everyone at this point is looking at each other like family because of how bad this war has been going. If anything, then they would be seeing each other like not in a romantic way, but as like brothers and sisters of war. That it doesn't really seem like a romantic outcome should have happened at all. And like a romantic outcome between any of these characters just doesn't feel right in any way, shape, or form. Izuku is coming back from the war, coming back from like almost seeing his dead best friend. That means literally the world to him. Like there's so many levels on what's happening with Izuku, and like in the last couple episodes that were like shown, not the most recent ones because I haven't really seen those yet. I've mostly just been kind of like getting spoilers and stuff, and which is why I'm here today. Like, don't get me wrong, I know that I don't know the exact full story, and this is not a claim that I'm making because I'm saying, like, this is the right thing. I want to have a discussion about this. I want there to be, like, some discussion in the comments being about the fact that, is this a rushed scenario? Because Ochako, although, yes, has been always kind of, like, promoted in a way to be along the lines of Izuku, she, again, is doing her own thing. Her concerns are on different matters, like the rights of villains, of like how to help people, how to save. And although some people could argue that her and Izuku are on a similar wavelength, though they're entangling with each other, okay, I can see that argument, but is it being handled properly? Izuku and Ochako don't seem like they're a couple or in love at all. Izuku is still really obsessed with like everything that's going on. Yes, the war has finished and all the stuff with Shigaraki went down and everything, like, but that doesn't feel like an end for Izuku. His adrenaline doesn't really just run out, and although I haven't really seen what happens after the war, I just kind of know about the finishing of the war, I feel like Izuku as a character would not make sense if he didn't just still have like some form of drive in him. The main issues he has right now is gone, and his quirk, yes, is ripped from him. Well, spoiler alert. But still, like, he almost lost so much. He had an emotional situation with a bunch of his friends. He almost ripped himself away, and the only thing that's pulling him back to his center is the closest friends. And some can argue, yes, that might be Ochako, but it also might be Todoroki. It also might be Bakugo. It also might be, like, Ida, Ayama, like, any of these characters that he has formed emotional contracts with. That's all of them. Like, any of these characters he has formed an emotional bond and emotional everything with. It feels weird that he signaled one out from the rest and chose that one for a emotional, romantic relationship. Romance doesn't really feel like it should be entered at all. This is an action anime. These characters are still like sophomores. They barely entered high school not that long ago, and they've only ever finished, like, what, 1 year there at the school? Maybe 2 if you're really pushing it, but if anything, they're either sophomores or barely about to be juniors. They're not even graduated yet, and they're already, like, veterans of war. The idea of forcing a romantic relationship around this time at all just doesn't feel right, especially not for Izuku, the main character, because he's been through the rut of it all. He's been at the center of all these emotional things, and is now in a relationship, and hell, from the clip I saw, he might actually be getting married? Like, I don't know if there was a time jump in the future, and maybe he had more time to emotionally think about himself, which would make the situation probably a little bit better, but even then, like, it doesn't make sense for it to be a Class 1A person in general. If anyone, I can understand why you would see Katsuki. I understand why Bakudeku would be such a big ship, because Shigaraki points it out. They were the most important person to Izuku right now is Bakugo. Shigaraki points it out, a lot of people point it out, the most important person to Izuku is Katsuki. In the dubs, he shows that Katsuki is more of a concern than other people, and in a lot of ways, yes, he does show a lot of things for Katsuki Bakugo. It does make sense. If anyone, he would probably be the most notable. And if you want to make that point that Izuku is straight, then I suppose you can pull Ochako. It just feels like it needed more time, or just something to make it seem like he would actually have a crush on her. That wasn't just pushed at the end and was just something that was reoccurring throughout the entire series, and not just like something that they phased out of, like season 2. We're season 7. And for a thing that went on basically only in season 2, a little bit after, and only really resonating with Ochako, and not with Izuku in any way, shape, or form. I don't think they even mentioned a crush near Izuku. Like, at all in the series. The closest to mentioning a crush to Izuku later on in the series is when they try to get their license, and they said, like, oh, so you saw her naked? Like, that's, like, the closest I can think of for a Izuku-related, like, Izuku into the actual ship, like, related situation. He has emotional bonds with everybody, none of which seem that romantic. The only thing you can really pull is the us against the world trope that he has with Katsuki. And I understand that, like, certain things is not going to come out in the media. But it feels like the Ochako and Izuku being together was just slapped in people's faces rather than treated nicely. It feels like if that was the intent, it should have been rooted in more, especially for the main male character, especially for Izuku, because Izuku does not show any signs of being in love with anybody. He does not show any signs of being in love with anyone, Katsuki included. He doesn't show any signs of romantic interest at all. It almost feels like he's not marrying Ochako to love her, but he's marrying Ochako out of comfortability because he knows that Ochako would be able to, like, see him for him, and not see him as a love interest, but see him, like, a partner for a more factual than romantic reason. Like, it doesn't feel romantic. If anything, it feels like you're marrying your therapist because you know they'll help you. Like, it doesn't feel like this is going to be a loving situation. This feels like it's going to be a situation where Izuku is marrying for convenience because the both of them went through crap and he felt like that was maybe an only option, or like he's just like selling it out. It doesn't feel like this is a love situation, which is why I feel like more people need to be talking about that rather than the fact that where's Bakudeku. Shipping Izuku in general is a difficult scenario. Him being romantic with anyone most likely can't happen until he's either like late 20s to 30s, hell, even the 40s maybe, because like if you look at it like a psychological standpoint, he needs time to emotionally heal before this is becoming similar to a rebound situation where you're not really dating them because of them, you're dating them because of the experiences that you want to experience again. You loved the memories you had with them, so maybe you can like marry them so that way you can love the memories you'll have in the future. You're not marrying them for them. You're marrying them for the experiences that you're expecting out of them. And I feel like that's the direction that Izuku is in right now, which shouldn't be the direction he's in. He's a very important character. He's a very loved character. And he should be treated that way. Even if he got together with Bakugo, I feel like there would still be a problem with that. If he had gotten together with Bakugo and like, oh, the person you've been with the most, it doesn't feel right. Being suddenly romantic, or suddenly, like, it just feels like it's a push away rather than an actual love story. And I understand this is an action, this is a shoujo, it shouldn't even be about romance in the first place. But the fact that now it is being canonized, it is being put in the front lines, and it's time for discussion. And this discussion is something I really want to look into, because this just doesn't feel like something that is correct. I don't know, please tell me what you think. I don't know what else to say about the matter. Like, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right at all. I don't know what to do. I don't know. Just sorry. Sorry for talking for so long and ranting, but it's just like, it makes no sense. Izuku shouldn't be dating. Anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comments.